Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over the grayscale trusts and the FOMC decision, in addition to Bitcoin and how the market's performed overall. So with that being said, let's get it. Okay, so I'm not going to go too deep into Bitcoin here. I just simply want to show you guys that we did hit the top of the flag. Unfortunately, this thing is pulling back, so it doesn't look like it's quite ready to break out yet. What's interesting about this is that Bitcoin and the altcoins in general are having a pullback of some kind. Again, I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times, I'll say it again. I don't think Bitcoin's going to break to new all-time highs. In my opinion, I'd happily be wrong about this. Trust me, I would love to. We would love to have an all season before the end of the year. That would be great. Like a big one, like the big one. But again, based on the history of Bitcoin, I just don't think that's going to happen. I think we're still in accumulation right now. So basically, that's how it's probably going to be probably until after the elections. So right around, I'd say the middle to the end of November, maybe into December is when we'll see Bitcoin smash to new all-time highs. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, that's pretty much been the historical norm until that changes, which, of course, Bitcoin being at all-time highs now or back in March does change things. But once again, I mean, the big squeeze, the one that we usually see during bull runs, it doesn't usually happen until the end of the halving year. So, and we're just not there yet. On the flip side, some good news. The traditional markets were up massively. You guys can see oil was up an insane amount, 4.2%. NASDAQ and the S&P were up 3 and 1.5% respectively. Just a lot of green overall today. I can go over some of these other positions. AMC's up, GME's up. Not quite the squeeze we're looking for, but it is up, so that's good. A lot of green on the miners. Everything looking good so far. And if I just show you guys the portfolio here, you guys can see we're up. At one point, this portfolio was up nearly 7.5%. So you can see it right here, up $3,600 on the day, which is insane. But then after Powell made his closing remarks, there was a pullback and then a squeeze and kind of just went all over the place. So overall green on the day. Still down. All right. No, I take that back. I guess we're up a little bit now this week. Still down a little bit on the month. And overall, still down quite a bit from this peak back here in July. But like I've said before, we're potentially entering into bearish seasonality. Again, the closer we get to the elections, the higher the level of uncertainty, which means the markets are going to get more volatile. There may be a pullback in September just based on that alone, the fact that the elections and the Fed rate cuts and stuff are coming up. I don't know that it necessarily equals some kind of major capitulation, but a pullback of some kind in September wouldn't really shock me at all. Just to give you guys an update on the SPX, you can see that we are getting a bounce immediately out of this. I did watch the entire FOMC meeting, and based on what Powell had to say, I would say the vast majority of what he said was pretty dovish, so I'm expecting the markets to continue to go up. But anyways, with that being said, let's get into the trusts. So LTCN has had a little bit more of a pullback. For those of you guys that have been waiting for what seems like eternity to get a pullback dip buy, looks like you might get your chance. So from the highs basically to the current price, you can see LTCN is currently down roughly about 70%. Again, I don't think that a lot of these trusts are going to run, especially not the Bitcoin oscillators, until Bitcoin smashes to new all-time highs. And that could be any time between now and December. Personally, I think it's going to be closer to the end of the year, but we'll just have to wait and see. So as long as Bitcoin is pulling back, these are going to pull back. When Bitcoin goes to new all-time highs, these are likely going to go to new all-time highs. So what we're looking at here is, and again, we have to confirm this on the weekly, but what we're looking at is a move down to 13 to 15. Assuming we close below this trend line, and then 25 to 27 is the first target up there at resistance, and then 54 on support, or not support, sorry, swing high. That's what I meant to say. That'd be great if that was the support, right? Because then we'd be looking at launching all the way up to like $100, $200 or something. So you can see the confirmation here on the daily. We have gotten below this trend line. Again, if I zoom out here in time, you can see that we have not really had a close below it on the daily time frame. So I think that pretty much says that. Sorry about that, y'all. Trading views acting kind of weird. So let's take a look at the measured moves here. So we'll basically just measure from support to resistance, 96% move, and then all the way up to the swing high, just to the swing high. We're not talking about all-time highs here, is 287%. Again, above and beyond the swing high, which is basically got shot down by a former control bar, which was the last capitulation bar from the bears during the bear market. You can see it right here, lines up almost perfectly with that wick and those body candles. Once we get past that level, it's looking like it's going to be 75 to 100, or sorry, 75, 100 to 135, and then 3 to 400 before hitting the all-time highs at 510. So BCHG, it does look like we're coming back down potentially to the support. So 690 to roughly about 770 here. And then we have 10 and a quarter to about 1270, 1810 to about $20, and $24 all the way up the swing high. So from this support, assuming we get a further pullback, which crypto is pulling back right now, so I assume that the Grayscale Trust, if Bitcoin has not recovered by the morning, I suspect the Grayscale Trust tomorrow are also going to pull back in addition to Bitcoin pulling back. So 78% here, 178 and 200 and roughly about 30%. Again, you guys got to understand here, Bitcoin is the market mover. So if Bitcoin goes up, everything else is going to go up with it, most likely. And then if Bitcoin goes down, everything else is likely going to go down with it. So you can see the daily close once again with a lower candle close below these candles here on the daily time frame and below the EMAs. That does confirm the increased probability of a move down further into support. So HZEN, we're pretty much still sitting on support here. I don't really need to look at the daily for this one. So 380 to 415 here, and then resistance roughly about $6.90 to $8 and 10.5 up at the swing high. Again, the falling wedge pattern is a bullish pattern, and the target is the top of the wedge. So the top of the wedge would be roughly at about 1050. So from the current price to resistance, 96% and 154% respectively, all the way up the swing high. Now, while I can't promise you guys that these are going to go back up, and I'm not saying they're not, okay, don't misunderstand me. I will just say this, based on the amount of time that I've been able to understand market psychology, even within myself as a trader and investor, okay? When these things are sitting down at these low prices, nobody wants to buy them, right? Because they're like, oh God, it's just going to go down more. But the reality is those who buy at these levels are going to be glad that they did when these things go to new higher highs, because once they get to new higher highs, the inverse effect happens where you're like, oh crap, like LTCN is now worth $100 a token. Man, I wish I had bought more. So I'm not telling you guys what to do, but I've been in that situation. Like I said, we bought Doge at 0.2 of a penny, but we bought a very small amount. Really wish we had bought more. Once we saw it went to 75 cents. So again, I'm just speaking to you guys from personal experience here, but you guys, of course, are free to do what you want to do with your own money because it's your money. So, all right. So ETCG, I'm going to go down to the daily time frame here for this one. So we are below the EMAs. We did get another red candle close below this kind of white bar here. So, once again, I'll just say it. I suspect if Bitcoin and Ethereum keep dropping like this, even though the spot E3 ETFs are trading, which again, they haven't been trading for that long. Bitcoin had a 2-week pullback after the spot ETF started trading. So don't be surprised if the same thing happens here. We'll probably touch down to support. So $8.70 to about $10 here at support. I'll just give you guys a couple targets here. So $15.60 at the top of this resistance. And then the top of this next resistance, $20. So 70% and roughly about 116% respectively. ETH. So it's kind of weird. This one keeps going back and forth between the spot E3 ETF chart and then this one. I don't know why that is. But yeah, more or less cup and handle pattern. So the target here for the big cup and handle, which you guys can see we already had a breakout. Again, price can do anything between now and then, is at the previous swing high, so roughly about $46 here. We're sitting in support. Again, you guys can do what you want to with that. If you buy this one, again, it's going to be a spot Ether ETF. It's not going to be ETH. So 23.5 to 28.5 roughly. If you just buy now and hold it to the swing high, it's about a 67% move. If you buy kind of closer to the bottom, let's say you don't really want to buy now and DCA down, you just want to wait for the perfect timing, it'd be roughly about 92%. And we have done that. We've done some position trading where we don't necessarily want to bulk buy on the way down or DCA on the way down. We just want to get the perfect entry. It does happen. So FILG support down here at 37 to 40. Again, this does look like it wants to go lower. This candle is below these candle lows right here at 56. If it confirms on the weekly, which I suspect is probably going to, at least before the end of the year and before Q1 of next year, when we get the rolling off of the Bitcoin dominance and then money flows into altcoins, we're probably going to go down to that support. So then the all-time high is at 400. And you have about a 930% move here. So I will tell you one thing. I've seen some things from some different people in the crypto space talking about like a 10, 20, 50, $80 million Bitcoin or just astronomical numbers. What I will say about this is when you get these insane numbers for Bitcoin, and I'm not saying it's not possible, but again, you guys got to understand if there's 21 million Bitcoin. So if it's going to go to $80 million of Bitcoin, the money has to be there to back it up. Look, these are price predictions, price projections. Trump's not elected yet. RFK's not elected. Okay, we're still not even to the end of 2024. So I would take, I'm not telling you guys what to do, but me personally, I'm taking these with a grain of salt. And I'm even looking at these crazy price predictions as bearish news events. And I'll tell you why. Because this is how smart money plays it. Okay, generally speaking, they'll give you the craziest thing you can think of, the most bullish scenario to try to get you to FOMO in. And then they basically, the whole buy high, sell low thing, right? Like, oh, well, they won't tell you that. But basically, oh, Bitcoin's going to 20, 30, 40 million a coin. And then everybody FOMOs in. And then all of a sudden, Bitcoin drops 50%. It happens, maybe not that exact scenario, but a lot of those things do happen frequently near highs for Bitcoin based on what I've seen. So when I heard that, I was just kind of like, oh, yeah, maybe there's probably going to be a pullback coming in crypto. And it turns out that I was, at least in the immediate short term, I was right about it. So you can see Bitcoin is now down to 65,000. Again, I did genuinely think this was going to break out of the bull flag. I mean, you guys can see based on technicals, based on price patterns, it's pretty bullish looking. I mean, this is more or less a hammer candle right up here at the top. It was higher than this previous big fat green candle, so I kind of thought it was going to break out, but it didn't. What I will say is that on the 4-hourly time frame, we're getting another death cross. I mean, as long as it's within this flag and it doesn't break down, it's still bullish in my opinion. But again, Bitcoin is the market mover. I'm never going to tell you guys that I think Bitcoin's going to $100 million or something crazy like that. It could happen, sure. But you're never going to hear me say that. Okay, maybe Bitcoin goes to $150,000, $200,000 at the peak of this cycle, but 80 million, I don't know about that. So GBAT, so you got roughly about 450 to 510 on support. This resistance is $8 to roughly about $10, and then 32 all the way up the swing high up here. So this candle here is, once again, we had our close below support here, turned into resistance, and a further candle that may confirm. So we might come down to the support down here. From that point, it's 105% move and 566% move, respectively, on GBAT. So GLIV, again, we got a rejection off that trend line. We got to get above all these trend lines if we're going to be bullish in the EMAs. So roughly about 1150 to 15 on the support there. Swing high still all the way up at the highs at $80. So from support to the all-time highs is a 513% gain. Again, the lower that you manage to get your prices in here, and the longer assuming that it goes much, much higher, the longer that you hold it, if it goes much higher during that time frame, the greater the gain you're going to make. If you're buying, like, let's say here and it goes here, the gain's not going to be as good as if, say, you get your cost basis down here and it goes either here or maybe to one of these higher Fibonacci levels or something like that. So that's why it's always best to try to accumulate as much crypto as possible around the bottom of the bear market if you can anticipate where that's going to be. So G-Link, trying to get down to the daily time frame. It doesn't want to work. What's going on here? Okay, so Chainlink, we do have a red candle closed below support. I'm not going to flip this into resistance yet because it has not confirmed on the week time frame, but if it does, we'll talk about it. So I'll just simply say there's a chance it could come down to the support here. So I'll give you guys the support zone. So 38.50 to roughly about 44.50. And then 65 to 85 is where we're currently sitting at. And then the all-time high up here is at 220. So two different scenarios. If your average is down here at the bottom of the support and you ride it to the highs, 240% move. However, if you get your average down here in this lower support range, the move then becomes nearly roughly about 400%. So GSOL, this thing's still not doing much. It's still not above the all-time highs, so I can't give you guys a future bullish projection yet, other than the fib levels. We do that separately, so $570 is the high. I would not buy this, especially if I thought Bitcoin was going to have one of those crazy 40 or 50% drops, which is always possible. Just understand that can happen. I'd be waiting to buy down here, so 170 to about, we'll just say $200 at support. From there to the all-time highs would be roughly about 215% gain. GXLM, once again, we're below the EMAs. I mean, it doesn't look super bearish. We're kind of just chopping around, but it's retesting this line of these EMAs and not getting above it, which in my opinion is not great for the bulls in the immediate short term. So 25% or $25 at support is what I'm looking at. And then you're looking at roughly about 53 to about 58.50 at the resistance and $70 at the highs there. So first target, roughly about 134%. Second target, 178%. Mana, so this one just continues to bleed. So, I mean, you can either look at it one of two ways. Either it's, just another dip and it's going to keep on dipping, which of course that could happen. I mean, this is crypto, all coins are still down 80 to 90%. So, or it's just another dip buying opportunity. Like, trust me when I tell y'all, the last few days in tech stocks have been brutal. We've been feeling it. We've been seeing it. It's not pretty. Okay. It sucks. I mean, I literally just showed you guys the portfolio here. You can see even after this crazy pump, how much we're down on the month. I mean, it doesn't feel great. Okay. It really doesn't. And the altcoins that we have, a lot of them are still down. So, we're experiencing the same pain that you guys are. I'm with you. You know what I mean? But anyways, so the bottom of this channel is at 10 and a quarter. And then below that, which I don't think it's going to go this low, is 170 to 350. But understand, if there's some kind of crazy capitulation on Bitcoin, we get like a mid-cycle dump like in 2021 where Bitcoin goes minus 50%, which again, I'm not saying is going to happen. But just understand that this support, although I think it's unlikely, it's possible. Okay. So I'm going to scroll down to the daily. We're going to take a look at whether it's below resistance or not. Yes, it is. So we're kind of creeping down to the bottom of this channel here, this white line. So that's the next level I would be looking at for the support down here at roughly about $11, let's say. And then, of course, the all-time high is at $70. So, I mean, from this point, you're looking at nearly a 7x on your money just to get back to all-time highs. That's pretty good. So nearly 500%. Zcash, so you can see this wick. Clearly, buyer stepped in and wanted to buy at this zone. So as of right now, 440 to roughly 510 is going to be support. The resistance here is $8 to about 960. And the swing high is roughly about 10 and a quarter. So it's kind of a bearish looking candle. I mean, it is lower than last week, but again, we still have 2 trading days. So I wouldn't be looking to change my mind on this being bullish unless I saw the candle close below the support and below that red candle right there on the weekly time frame. So roughly about 112% and 125% respectively. So in terms of the Fed, I mean, everything that Powell said, well, not everything, but like 90% of what Powell said was actually quite dovish. It does sound like they're getting closer to cutting rates, although he did not say if they were going to cut in September or not. My opinion, they probably will. And he did say, oh, well, I'm not going to say he said, but basically what I was able to gather is that apparently the Fed does not make decisions based on politics to favor politics one side or the other. So if that's the case, if they're going to cut, they're going to cut before the end of the year. They're not going to wait till after the election. We'll see if that's true or not. But in my opinion, I think probably September is probably going to be the rate cut, the first one. Other than that, they didn't cut rates. They just basically held them the same. So anyways, hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.